Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
Good morning, everyone. It is Friday, May 31st, 2024. My name is John Piranunzi, and this is the opening swing. Let's begin today, as we always do, with our news. Europe was pretty busy last night, a lot of data. However, Europe is unched, essentially unched, not a lot of movement, but there was a lot of data. We had French non-farm, German retail sales, Great British housing prices, French inflation numbers, French GDP, Great British mortgage lending, Euro area inflation. This was a key figure, didn't really move us, and the Italian inflation numbers as well. So a lot of data, but not a lot of movement out of Europe. Coming into the US hours, we have the personal income and outlays number, which is our 8:30 news driver. That's our biggest data today. This is significant data coming out again at 8:30, followed by the Chicago PMI at 9:45 and the Baker Hughes rig count, which is of less consequence to equity traders. And Bostic speaks, but not till after the bell. So the 8:30 news driver, personal income and outlays, is our big one. Also, we have to mention it is month end. So month end, we might see a busier close with month end flows. So that is to be aware of. And let's take a look at that monthly chart since this is our last day. Last day for the May candle, everybody. How about that May candle? A lot of excitement during the month of May. Huge rally. I expected this month to be an inside month. I was wrong about that. Instead, we just levitated higher, took out the all-time high, and then reverted lower. So basically, what is the market condition on this time frame? For me, I call this balance with a skew for higher prices. Why do I call it balance with a skew for higher prices? Because we've shown the ability to trade higher than the prior month, but the bar is still overlapping and we're still trading the prices within. So for me, that amounts to balance with a skew for higher prices, where I'm expecting a lot of trading within the prior range, but I'm expecting the low to be respected and I'm expecting the highs to be tested most likely, but then probably revert. What's the target for whenever we see the reversion in? Usually for me, it's the 50% line, which corresponds right around with the 5,200 area. So that's for reversion, that's my target on the monthly time frame. Once again, just to reiterate, in my opinion, the monthly time frame is balanced with a skew for higher prices, which we're closing that candle today. Going on to the weekly. What do we see on the weekly? I had emphasized that the weekly chart was in price discovery higher, one time framing higher, mostly through the month of May. Started to level off up here once we hit these 33 halves. We were unable to really hold above that price, and now we have reverted lower. So the weekly time frame is in price discovery lower. That is the market condition on this time frame. Why? Because we have broken below the prior week's range and we are continuing to make progress below the prior week's range. So that's price discovery lower in my book. What's the target on this time frame? For me, I had mentioned it is the 52.1275s. It's a naked weekly VPOC from this May 6th week. Also corresponds with a few of these highs and lows in this area. So right around the 52.12s, that whole region, really everything below like 52.25, which we've started to press already. So monthly, balance with a skew for higher prices. Weekly, price discovery lower. Let's check in on the daily chart. The daily chart, as I mentioned, is also in price discovery lower. We're one time framing lower with the past 3 days, 4 days actually have a lower high than the prior day. So that's price discovery lower. What's our target on the daily time frame? It's still the 52.12s, which I've marked because it's close enough that we can reasonably expect a test today if the current action continues. If so, all basically that the key area above that I want to mention on this chart is 64 to 72, 74. It's this area right here. I've talked about a lot in the Convergent chat room yesterday. And we're seeing this area, we're starting to see some support in this area. I would expect support on tests into near the 5212 area, 5200s. I'm expecting some support and potential rounding. But we have to keep in mind price discovery lower. That's what I'm seeing. Let's go to smaller time frame charts and talk about this with a little bit more detail. And I'm going to resist pausing the video so that we can try to get through it without freezing. Sometimes the video freezes. Anyway, so here's our structure chart. Now 2-hour chart, just because I want to see more action to the left over here. What am I looking at over here? I talked about this area yesterday and this HVN as a potential target around the 45s, which we got that. But let's look at the structure here. We have this HVN, and then down below we have this HVN with the 5212s. That's our target for any downside action. And we have this very hollowed out area between. Generally, when I see this, I'm expecting support or some action in this area. And if we break below, I would tend to expect us to just sort of continue, drift, or trend to the next landmark, which is the 5212s. So I'm just saying that's my general expectation when I see structure like this. Doesn't always happen, but that's the general expectation. But each individual situation can be different than the general expectation, but I'm just flagging that. And that's the key to recognize on this chart in my opinion, is that if we break lower from this 45 area and trend, the target would be the 12s for me. Also up here, I really emphasized 64 to 72, roughly this area. This was really the 72s. There was a lot of supply available at the 72s. Yesterday, I mentioned this double TPO high up here at 52.98, which was an RTH high for the prior day yesterday. And I said that it appeared that there was an unfinished seller. That's what I said yesterday, based on this action. Then during yesterday's session, if you're in the Convergent chat room, I reiterated that I'm seeing that seller come down to 72s, and we saw just completely obvious reloading at 72s. Like, it was a little less obvious up here until after it was done, but down here at the 72s, the cat was out of the bag. This guy was selling at a price of 72, and he had a whole bunch to unload, and buyers at those prices just could not take up all that inventory, and we released lower late into the day. Now what we need to be aware of, so this area is very important. If we push higher, settlement is key. Above settlement, then obviously the 64 to 72s are key. That's where that seller was. If we push higher, how would we push higher? I think it could be with a rounded bottom if we see a push higher. If we do not see a push higher, I think we'll see resistance in like ahead of P settle. We'll go over that on a smaller chart. Let's do that now if I could find it. Here we are. So let's go over a few of our key areas today, just quickly. Key area, obviously, change the mouse. Key areas, obviously, we have our developing overnight low. This zone basically below our overnight low to the 20s. That's one volatility sigma down. We have our key target, my key target, the 12s. Then we have this area basically from the 09s, the O's to the 09s. That's as far down as I'll plan for today. Above, we have a very key area, which is the prior settle. Our 2-day ETH VWAP, that'll change. And then we have this key area, 64 to roughly 72. Our RTH high. Then above that is the 84 area with a naked VPOC. And then above our 03s, which really is our 0575 area that I've been talking about, 03s up to 07s roughly. So let's discuss some potential price action. First, let me reiterate, this is where we saw the seller, or we saw the seller come in at 98s, create a double TPO high. Key price, this double TPO high, absolutely key. Then we saw price release lower based on the seller, and then we saw this guy come back in at 72s. I actually don't know. Maybe I shouldn't personify the market in such a way, say this guy. It's just the way I'm used to speaking, because being in a prop shop or on the floor, we actually, you're more used to the other entities actually being human beings. But it probably isn't a good idea, because it might be one person or it might be a quorum of people that just all, without even speaking to each other, agree that that price is a sale. But anyway, whatever force was selling, or a new force, came down to 72s. So what I'm expecting today, basically, I'm looking at prior settle as a key area. Let's go over some bearish ideas first. Prior settle would be key. So the most bearish idea would be if prior settle is respected from below. And what could that look like? Could look like an early attempt higher that may or may not test our existing overnight high, but find resistance at or ahead of prior settle and release lower. Back to the RTH low, find resistance at FS levels, continue, take out this low. And then what we're starting to see here is these pushes lower are finding support. And that's where we might see something like an early push lower, takes out the low, and then we see some reversion higher. Doesn't quite get this high, but then we see some other low come in that doesn't get that low, and then it starts to get somewhat kind of messy somewhere in this area. Like we make some type of a low, can't retest that low, and then that is when we could potentially see some reversion happening later into the day. I wouldn't worry about, for me, I'm not looking at reversion too much until we get above P settle. If we get into P settle and we hold, then I'm looking for 64s, no doubt. If the 64s are an area where we could definitely see some resistance and complete reversion lower, we'll go over that more in a minute with other scenarios. But anyway, if we revert, it would have to be above 64s. So basically, this is my most expected scenario for if we remain bearish. This would be a push higher into the P settle area that finds resistance. We push lower, take out the overnight low, but then find some support or chop and end up reverting higher back into P settle. This is kind of my most expected idea. What happens if we don't get the reversion? So if we just don't get the reversion, what we could definitely see, this is possible, is some type of push higher, same type of thing, falls lower, gets in, takes out the overnight low, tries to get back up, can't, takes out this low, then just continues lower. We get into that key area. We take the 12s. So on a test of the 12s, again, the 12s could be the place where we start to see this action happen. We get back up into range, and then we continue for the same thing. That's if we get the 12s. However, if the 12s do not provide support, we could see price flush lower. We're looking at 09s, and then we're looking at the O's. This would be my extended target, 09s and the O's. I'm not expecting us to get below the O's today. I'm not expecting us to get below the O's. I would expect reversion higher. If we get to the O's, maybe a quick test or support above, and then I'd expect us to get back above the prior week's VPOC and just basically chop into the close, maybe start to revert higher late in the day. If alternatively we do get below the O's, I will just be going by the stock zones provided by Convergent, made by yours truly. If we go below, if we get below the O's today, I think it would probably be like a runoff late into the day, something like that. I don't think we'd get there early. I could be wrong. I'm saying that right now, could be totally wrong, but you're wrong most of the time if you're a trader, so you have to get used to it and then just correcting the action and going forward with something else. But anyway, so that's pretty much the bearish scenarios. I will also mention the bearish scenarios, all that could happen as well. with some type of an early test that just gets a lot higher than we think, like could get up into these 64s. Everyone thinks, oh man, maybe we're going to rally, and then an impulse lower below P settle that just continues the way, the way we expect it to. But for me, key area, the initial key area is the prior settle. So let's just draw that out. This prior settle region. If we hold below this, I'm looking for the overnight low, and then potentially 20s and then 12s if we hold below the prior settle. If we get above the prior settle, and hold in any way, shape, or form, I am looking for the 64s. Again, the 64s, like I said, on an initial test of the 64s, we could see resistance and a reversion lower below P settle, and then it's the same thing we've been talking about. However, if we get up, we test the 64s, we hold P settle, and then we get up above 64 bid, then I'm looking for 72s, obviously, if we get up there. Now, now 72s could also be a place, again, we're still not taking out any highs if we get to 72s, that area. But I'm aware or open to a test in this area that shows me resistance either ahead of 72s or potentially with a quick test that is rejected. And then in that case, we're back into this area. I'm looking for 64s again. If we keep falling, I'm looking for prior settle again, and the bearishness could come after a test this high. However, if we get up the whole way up to 83s and we test, I think it'd be a lot less likely to see us revert. I think if we get up to, I think this testing scenario is probably one of the least likely ones. I think that if we get up here and we end up being bearish, we're either going to test 64s and fall back, or get like a rounded top ahead of 72s and go. But that being said, if we do get up above the 64s, pretty good chance that things get bullish. So let's discuss that more now. So if we do get above the 64s, we get to the 72s, and we pull back, still hold the 64s. And then if we break yesterday's high, I have to tell you that I think if we break yesterday's high, I think that there's potential for stops to be run right up into the 83s. That would be a key area if we break 72s. If we break 72s and hold, I'm expecting to see this 84 region to trade. So let's draw that out. If we break and hold above the 72s and get into yesterday's high, I'm expecting to see us trade the 82s to 85s region. Once above there, if we're holding above yesterday's high, then the next key target, 98s. This is a big one. If we trade 98s today, guys, in my opinion, I think we'll get at least some continuation. I think we'll get some. If we get a rounded high ahead of 98s, then it's chop. But I think if we break 98s today, that double TPO high, I think we'll see the 03s to 07s based on how much energy was built up around here. So that's what I'm thinking today. So my initial bias is bearish as long as we're below P settle. Once we get above P settle, things start to get called into question, but I'm expecting resistance on the first test of 64s as well. If we hold 64s, then things start to get interesting, and we might test the 72s. If we hold the 72s, I'm expecting higher prices. So that's what I'm generally expecting today. Key areas, like I said, these 98s, if we even get there, 72s absolutely key, and prior settle absolutely key. So those are the real areas. If you're only marking 3 areas, settlement, 72s, 98s, then below, if you're only marking a few, we're looking at the developing overnight low, and then 20s down to the 12s. So that's what I'm thinking today. I hope this is relatively complete. I know I kind of tend to be a little bit all over the place with plans, but I usually, as you can see, the way I plan, I'm looking for individual tests, and it's kind of modular with what happens from test to test. That's how I'm thinking. But anyway, I hope this was helpful for you guys. It went a little bit long, but this is month end. There is some important things to be aware of, some important levels and price action that I think is worth talking about. So I hope this was helpful to you guys. I hope that it's something, something I said today adds to your trading or improves your plan as you check what I say against what you're thinking. Also, a few important announcements before I wrap it up here. No opening swing on Monday. We will not have an opening swing. I'm going away for the weekend, and I am just going to take Monday off and do other things besides trade and think about the auction. There's other stuff to do, seriously. But anyway, that's what I got for you today. I hope you're having a great morning. I hope your morning can continue. It's Friday, so the big thing is to be on guard against any emotional trading. You want to keep things tight and end the week well. I hope we can all do that and improve our trading somehow. And I hope most of all that you can make someone else smile, because that is always the most important thing. I'll see you guys all on Tuesday. Hope everyone has a great weekend and a great trade today. Get out there and clock some ticks. We'll see you guys. Bye-bye.